This video is on how to convert a decimal and a fraction to a percentage. And in the last video, we drew a little diagram and we saw that when you are converting a percentage to a fraction or to a decimal, well, a percentage is just a number out of 100. So we would divide by 100 or put it over 100. That means the same thing to go from a percentage to a fraction or decimal. So if we're going the other way to a percentage, we just reverse that operation and we multiply it by 100. So that's what we're going to be doing in today's video. If we are converting fractions and decimals to percentages, we are going to multiply. So let's have a look at some examples. So if we have an easy example, so this slide is all what I would consider to be easy examples, I would use the following method. So we know that the decimal 0.3, I know that that is 3 out of 10. So this hopefully is something you'd know from primary school because the 3 represents 3/10. And then I'm able to convert that quite easily to a number out of 100. So if I multiply the 10 by 10, I get 100, and that means I need to do the same to the numerator, and then I would get 30. And a percentage is a number out of 100. So if I have 30 out of 100, that must be 30%. Okay, so as a fraction, I'll still give the fully reduced fraction, but it helps me also to make it unsimplified, i.e. this fraction, to get to the percentage. All right, so here I've got 2.1%. I straight away know that every time I have a whole, I have 100%. So that means I must already have 200%. And this 0.1, well, so I've got 2 wholes and I've got 0.1. Well, that's just 2 plus a tenth, which is 2 1/10. And then I'm hoping you know that a tenth is 10%. If you don't know that a tenth is 10%, then just convert it to a number out of 100 by multiplying the numerator and the denominator by 10. So then that gives me the 10%. But then if I put on the 2 wholes, then that gives me an extra 200%, which I will add to my 10%. So it gives me 210%. So I'm not doing a lot of calculations, I don't think. I'm just thinking about it very logically and what I know about percentages, as in every whole is 100%, and I know that 1/10 is 10%. These are quite useful numbers to know, or useful percentages to know. All right, 0.397. As a fraction, we know that if I have tenths, hundredths, and thousandths, 3 numbers after the decimal place, that would be the same as 397 on 1,000. So when I had only 1 number after the decimal place, I put it over 10. 2 numbers would be over 100. 3 numbers is 1,000. Now here's where that little flow chart that we did before comes in handy. I'm now trying to convert a decimal over to a percentage. So here's my decimal. So the way that we're going to do that is by multiplying by 100. So when I multiply by 100, I would move the decimal place 2 places, but this time we're multiplying, so we go to the right. So it's for division that we go to the left. And so I would land my dot, my decimal place, right after the 9, so it's 39.7%. All right, here's another example where I can convert the denominator to 100. Wherever you can convert your denominator to 100, please do. So we can do that by timesing by 4. Timesing by 4. That gives me 36 on 100, and any number out of 100 I can write straight away as the percentage 36%. Now as a decimal, well, I know that 36% is 36 out of 100, and 36 out of 100 is 0.36. So it worked quite easily to get the percentage first and then go from the percentage over to the decimal. So there is no strict rule on the order you need to follow. I would go I would follow the order that makes it easiest for you. All right, one more question where it's very easy to convert the denominator to 100. So here I'm going to multiply by 5 because 20 times 5 is 100, and then I can multiply 13 by 5, which you can do on a piece of paper if you don't know. It should come out as 65 on 100. And that would be the same as 65%, and that means as a decimal it would be 0.65, because when I divide by 100 I move the decimal place from here over to here. So just make sure you understand why that decimal place is where it is. So that first slide is the easy examples. Let's have a look at 2 that I consider to involve a bit more work. Straight away when I look at this fraction, I don't know how to convert that to 100. So if you don't know how to convert it to 100, then why don't you just do a little bit of division? So we know that 5/8 is the same as 5 divided by 8. So I put the numerator over here and the 8 on the outside, and then I will need my decimal places to be lined up. And I can work out, well, 8 can't go into 5, so I'm going to add a 0. 8 can go into 56 times, remainder 2. 8 can go into 22 times, remainder 4. And 8 goes into 40 5 times. So it turns out that 5/8 is 0.625. And if I want to convert it to a percentage, then I'm going to have to multiply by 100, which involves moving the decimal place 2 over. So that will give me 62.5%. All right, last example, 10.2. I know this is going to be a big percentage because every whole is 100%. So I've got 10 wholes, that's already 1,000%. So when I multiply my decimal, I'm going to move, change my decimal to a percentage, I'm going to multiply by 100. Don't forget to follow those same rules we've learnt all along, even if you think it looks confusing. So when I multiply by 100 to get 1, 2, put the dot over here. So I'm actually getting 1,020%. And that makes sense because, as I said before, 10 wholes would already give me 1,000%. Now, as a fraction, well, I can put 10.2 as 10 and, well, 0.2 is a pretty easy fraction for me to work with. 0.2 or 0.2, that's 10 and 2/10. And 10 and 2/10 is exactly the same as 10 and 1/5. So you could write it as 10 and 1/5. If you wanted to, you could always change it to a mixed number, which would be 51, not a mixed number, change it to an improper fraction, which would be 51/5. So either of those I would accept. So I hope this makes sense as to how to convert now from a decimal and a fraction to a percentage. So we've now gone from percentage to decimal and fraction, and also from decimal and fraction over to percentage. You should be able to do the conversions either way with a variety of questions.